at the YouTube page over here for the Shy Hat. If you want to take part in the YouTube live stream, you can do so over at this link right here, which I'm putting in the chat. You can participate in the chat over at YouTube, or you can participate in the chat over at Zoom. Either one is fine. And we're going to be starting now. Okay. So everybody, today we're going to be doing HackerFrogs After School Python Programming Basics Part 4. And today's a very important lesson because we're going to go over a couple of very important concepts inside of Python. So let's begin. This workshop is the fourth intro to Python programming. During our last workshop, we learned about a few programming concepts through Python, including the following. We learned about string formatting. String formatting is a way for us to include variable values inside of strings. We learned about basic string operations. Strings in Python have a number of different functions and methods that can be useful for obtaining specific details about these strings. So we were basically able to run different operations on the strings, and we're able to include the names of variables inside the strings. Okay, so today we're going to be covering these two important topics. The first topic is going to be on conditions. So basically how programs make decisions when they come to a fork in the road, basically. So if we come to this point in the program code, if something happened, then do A. If something else happened, then do B. And we're also going to be talking about programming loops, which is how programs run the same instructions over and over again through a certain set of data. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be learning about is this: conditions. So conditions are how programs make decisions as to which instructions to perform at a specific point in the program execution. Okay, so generally, conditions trigger when a statement evaluates to true or false. So let's discuss what this means exactly, okay? So when we're talking about programming, we care a lot about this word right here, true and false. The basic conditional statement in Python is the if statement. And if statements are written in code blocks like the following, okay? So we've got a code block over here. It says password equals my secret password. So this variable password is the string my secret password. And then we have an if condition. If the password, so if this is exactly equal to my secret password, then we're going to print password correct. Or else we're going to print incorrect password. All right, so here the program will print one message if the password variable is the string my secret password, and that counts as true, and it's going to print another message if it is not, which counts as false. All right, so let's try this out. We've got a new website that we can try out to do our Python coding, okay? So I'm providing the link to everybody in chat right now. This website is called onlinepython.com. So the name is right over there. So when you load this website, you're going to get some code in here already, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to erase everything on this window already, okay? So what you need to do is you need to highlight all of this code right here, and you need to delete it. So we're going to delete it. Press the delete key on your keyboard. So after you're done, we can start writing some code on this website right here, okay? So inside of this window, main.py, click into it, and then we're going to do password, and that's going to be equal to my secret password. Okay, on the next line, we're going to give the if statement. So if password, and remember, when we're doing comparison, we have to do the double equal signs. So when we use if, we need to use double equal signs. if password equals, and that's going to be my secret password. And then here we're going to give a colon, okay? So we need to include the colon, because if we don't, then it's not going to be a code block. And this is an introduction to writing code blocks in Python, okay? So we're going to hit the enter key, and then it's going to indent for us. But if it didn't indent for us, we have to make the indent ourselves. We need to leave some spaces here, and that's how we know that we're creating a code block, okay? So we're going to print, and in here we're going to print something. The password is correct, okay? And then on the next line, we're going to include else, and else is another keyword, and we're going to need to indent that as well. It's going to be print incorrect password. Okay, so I think this is the syntax. Let me just check. Yeah, just like that. All right. So after you finish writing this code right here, I want you to click on Run, and we should get this message right here. The password is correct. All right. So everybody, try writing this out. If you're having some trouble here, I'm going to include what the lines of this code in the chat for everybody. But unfortunately, you won't be able to directly copy this, but that's all right. Okay, so if you're able to get this message, the password is correct, please type in the chat, password. So try this out. Password equals my secret password on the first line. On the second line, if password equals, and then a string, my secret password. Don't forget to add the colon over here, because this is very important for this. Then on the next line, we have to indent. You can either provide a tab, or you can do 4 spaces, but we need to make sure that it's the same amount of spaces for each of these. So on here, we're going to indent and then print the password is correct. And then we're going to give the else over here. So, or else, it's going to print incorrect password. All right. So when we run this, it's going to say the password is correct. But if we were to change the password to something else, so we're going to change this to not password, and then we run the same code over here, it's going to give the other choice, which is to print incorrect password. Okay, so let's learn a little bit more about these if statements in the next couple slides. So if statements start with if, and then a Boolean equation, and then a semicolon. So it starts with the if, and then the Boolean equation over here. So this is what is being compared. We have to compare something when we use an if statement. And then we have to include the semicolon, which is this right here. There's an indentation on the next line, followed by instructions if the condition is met. So if this is true, if this statement is true, then it's going to do this, print this. Then on the next line, else, and then colon. Then an indent on the next line, followed by instructions if the condition is not met. So if is going to test if this statement is true. So if the statement is true, password equals my secret password, then it's going to print this message. Or else, it's going to print this message right here. So if it's true, it's going to be this red one right here. And if it's false, it's going to print the green one right here. Okay? So the else portion of the code block is optional. After the if statement code block finishes, program execution is going to continue on the next line. Okay? So these are the different symbols we can use inside of these Boolean operations. So in the if statement, we can use these different comparisons. We can check if something is equal to, less than, greater than, not equal to, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. Okay, so the one thing we have to remember is that when we're doing our if statements, the equal sign and the double equal sign are not the same. So a common mistake using conditionals is to use the equal symbol for comparisons. The double equal symbol is used for comparisons in conditionals. Okay. All right. So let's try this out. So let's write this this little code block right here. Let's go to our online Python. So to the people who are arriving late, the website that we're going to use to create our Python code is this website right here, which is called online-python.com. Okay, so when you load up your online-python.com, you're going to see that there's already some code here. And what we need to do before we can start writing our own code is to delete everything here. So we can highlight all this and then press the backspace key on our keyboard to delete all of it. All right. User F says, "Why is class today?" So I have an appointment that I need to do on Friday, so I can't do the class on Friday, and that's why we're doing the class today. I hope you understand. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a number variable, and we're going to set it to 32. You can set it to whatever you like, but I'm just going to set this number to 42. I said 32, didn't I? It's supposed to be 42. Anyways, okay, and then on the next line, it doesn't matter how many lines down you do it, but you can do if number double equal signs 42 and then colon. So this is the end of the if comparison over here. We're comparing if the number is exactly equal to 42, and then we give a colon over here, and then on the next line we have to give a space. So it's going to space it out automatically for us, but if not, we're going to print something. So we're going to print the number is 42. And we're going to put else over here as well. So on the next line, we do else, colon. And on the next line, we do print the number is not 42. Okay, so everybody, let's try writing this one over here. It's not too complicated, but so after you write this, and if the number is 42 over here, we click on run, and it should say the number is 42. But if we set this number to something else, we set it to 33, and we run it again, it should say the number is not 42. Okay, so everybody, let's try to write this program right here. So the first thing is number equals, and let's make this 42. And then we write the if statement here. If number equal 42 colon. And then on the next line, leave a space and then print. And the parentheses and the double quotes, the number is 42. And on the next line, else, and then colon. And then on line 6 here, we're going to leave a space, print, the number is not 42. Okay, so everybody, let's try this out. If you're able to get this program working and you click run and it says the number is 42 or not 42, please type in the chat, numbers. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to take a little sip of water, just a second. Okay, so I hope everybody tried this out over on the onlinepython.com website here. If you're having troubles, let us know in the chat and we'll try to help you out and to try to solve your problems. Or if you have any questions about any of the concepts we're talking about, go ahead and type in the chat and we'll try to address your concerns. All right, so let's go on with the presentation here. So remember, when we use the if statement and we're trying to compare something, we have to use the double equal signs. When we use the single equal sign, that means that we're setting a value to a variable. So single equal sign is for making variables, and the double equal sign is for comparing two objects, okay? So we also talked about the else keyword over here. So we've got else inside of our if statements. So if something, we're going to do something, or else we're going to do something else. As mentioned earlier, the else keyword can be used with if conditionals to provide instructions to be executed if the if condition is not triggered. However, there's a third keyword, elif, which can be used if there's more than one condition to check for. We can include as many elif keywords as we want in an if code block. So let's take a look at this code and try to understand what it's doing. Okay. So in this code right here, it says number equals integer input a number. Okay. So we're making a variable from the user input, and it's going to ask us to input a number. And then here, if the number modulo 2, remember modulo means that we're going to divide by this number and get the remainder. And if it is equal to 0 over here, we're going to print the number is an even number, or else we're going to print the number is an odd number. So this is basically a way to check if a number is even or odd using this if statement. So if it divides evenly by 0, it's going to print it's an even number, or else it's going to print this is an odd number. So remember that there's another thing that we can use, or else if we're trying to check for some different conditions as well. Okay. So we could have this really long if statement right here that checks what we should say about your age. Okay. So for example, we've got this program here, and that's going to take your input. Please enter your age, and then you input a number. So if the age is less than 0, it's going to say invalid age, enter a positive number. Or else, if the age is greater than 1, it's going to print you're an infant. But if it's greater than 3, it says you're a toddler. If it's greater than 12, you're a child. If it's greater than 9, if it's greater or it's less than, sorry, these are less than or equal to 1, less than equal to 3, less than equal to 12. If it's less than equal to 19, it's going to say you're a teenager, and so on and so on. Okay? So we also have something called the AND operator, and this is something we can also use inside of our if statement. When we're using the AND operator, both statements to the right and left of the operator must be true in order for the overall statement to evaluate to true. So everybody, let's try running this program right here. So we've got birthday. So the birthday variable here is equal to October 24th. So it could be any day, or it could be your birthday. And then today's date is October 24th. So we've got both of these days, birthday and today's date, are October 24th. and then we make a comparison statement here. If birthday is equal to October 24th, and today's date is also equal to October 24th, then we're going to print happy birthday. And so it does print. So everybody, let's try writing this program to better understand. So back over at the Online Python website over here, we're going to make these two variables. So birthday, and then we're going to make this a string. You can put in whatever you like. I'm just going to say March. Wait, what is today? So today's August 15th, right? August 15th. And today's date is also August 15th. Okay, and then next we're going to write our if statement. And the if statement is if birthday is equal to August 15th and today's underscore date is equal to August 15th. And remember, at the end of an if statement, we have to put the colon because this is a code block. So this is a code block. We put the colon down, we press enter, and this website is automatically going to put the space in here for us. We're going to print happy birthday. Okay, so everybody, please try to write this program right now. You don't need to include the same date right here. You just need to include something. But I guess if it's easier for you, you can just copy everything that you see here. So I'm going to copy this code and leave it in the chat for people to reference. Okay, so after we write this program, we're going to click on Run, and then it's going to say Happy Birthday. But if we change this to something else, so maybe we make this August 14th, and we try running it again, then nothing is going to appear. So we could also change this code right here to include an else statement. And that's going to be something that prints if this is not true, okay? So that's going to be print, it's not your birthday. Okay, so this is the extra little code over here. So else, colon, and then on the next line we have to indent and then print something else. So it's going to be, it's not your birthday. We run this and it says, it's not your birthday. Hey, all right. So everybody, please try to write this program on the web page over here. If you have any troubles, please let me know and I'll try to help you out. And if you're able to get this program to work and it says happy birthday or it's not your birthday, please type in the chat birthday wishes. Okay, let's move on. So go ahead, if you're not finished yet, go ahead and keep on writing the program. And when you're done, you can type happy birthday in the chat. Sorry, or birthday wishes in the chat. But I have to keep on moving on with the presentation over here. Okay. So in this case, since the variables birthday and today's date are the same day, the if statement is going to return true. So this statement is true, and then it does this right here. The program is going to print happy birthday. So there's another operator we can use as well, and that's the OR operator. So we can do if something something or something something, then something's going to happen over here. And when using the OR operator, either statement to the right or left of the operator have to evaluate to true for the overall statement to evaluate to true. So we've got this little program right here. It says our favorite food is spaghetti, and our hobby is watching movies. And then we've got our if statement right here. So it's if favorite food is equal to spaghetti, or our hobby is equal to classical painting, then it's going to print, let's take a vacation to Italy. And then in this case, it's going to print out, let's take a vacation to Italy, because our favorite food is equal to spaghetti over here. Our hobby doesn't match, but that's okay. Because we're using the OR operator right here, only one of these has to be true in order for this to trigger right here. So let's try this out. So it's going to be favorite food, and it's going to be hobby. And we're going to make these variables here. Maybe our hobby is cycling, and maybe our favorite food is sushi. And then we're going to write our if statement. If favorite underscore food is equal to, remember, when we're using the if statement, we have to use the double equal signs, is equal to sushi, or hobby equals, and let's just say that we're trying to take a vacation to Japan. Okay, so if your favorite food is sushi, maybe you want to go to Japan, and maybe if your hobby is sumo wrestling, then we have to put the colon at the end of the if statement. Then we're going to print, let's go to Japan. Okay. All right, so we've got our favorite food, it's sushi. We've got our hobby, it's cycling. And then our if statement, if favorite food is equal to sushi, or hobby is equal to sumo wrestling, then it's going to print, let's go to Japan. Okay? So everybody, let's run the program. And then it says, let's go to Japan. Okay? Because one of these is true. So the favorite food is sushi is true, so it's going to print this. But the hobby didn't match. But that's okay because we're using OR. So we're looking for 1 or 2. So favorite food or hobby. But if we change our favorite food to spaghetti, then this isn't going to trigger and nothing's going to print. So nothing prints here because both of these are false. All right. So everybody, I want you to try writing this one as well. I'll provide the code in the chat. For reference. But try writing that program and running the program while we look over the next couple of slides, okay? So the next thing we're looking at is the in operator over here, and we're looking for if something is in another object, right? So the in operator is used to check if there is a specific item within a container object, such as a list. So in this program here, we've got our name is equal to John, and we've got our party guest list. So the party guest list is John and Sue and Bobby. And then we have our if statement over here, and it's if name. So if the name variable is in party guests, this list right here, then it's going to print you're invited to the party. All right, so let's try to write this program really quick too, okay? So it's going to be, so name is equal to John, so John is our name, and our party guests. So this is a list. So a list is going to be something inside of these square brackets, right? So we're going to create a couple of items for this list. And remember, each item in a list has to be separated by a comma. So we're going to put in John, and we're going to put in Sue, and we're going to put in Bobby. And then we're going to create our if statement. And the if statement is if name in party guests, then we're going to print you're invited to the party. Okay, so if this variable, John, is in the party guests, if we can find this name inside the party guest list, then we're going to print you're invited to the party. Okay, so we're going to run this, and it says you're invited to the party. So the reason this equated to true and we got you're invited to the party is because John is in the list, in this party guest list. Okay? All right, let's move on. So here the print instructions is executed because the string listed in the name variable is included as an item in the party guest list. All right, so there are a couple of more, but we're not going to go over these because we don't have too much time to go over this lesson. But this concept is very important over here. So this concept over here is talking about if statements and what is true and false inside of programming languages. So true is the number 1 and false is the number 0. So if you study programming, this comes up quite a bit. Because computers work in ones and zeros, so a computer at the end of the day only knows 2 numbers. It knows the number 1 and it knows the number 0, but it can take a big string of ones and zeros and it can turn them into instructions. But inside of programming, we say that the number 1 is true and the number 0 is false. So over here, we've got var a, variable a, is equal to 1, and variable b is equal to 0. So here, we're going to test if variable a is equal to true. So variable a is 1. Remember that, that in Python, these numbers, 1 and true, these are the same. And the numbers 0 and false, these are also the same inside of Python. Okay? So in Python, 1 and true are considered the same, and likewise 0 and false are considered the same. So we'll be talking a little bit more about this later, but just bear in mind that the number 1 is true and the number 0 is false. Okay, so let's take a little quiz about conditionals. So everybody, please let me know what answer you think is true over here. So we've got this code, hacking equals 1. If hacking is equal to true, then it's going to print we're hacking. Okay? So what's going to print when we run this program? A, B, C, or D? Let us know in the chat. And I'm going to take a little drink, just a second. But let us know which answer do you think the answer is. A, B, C, or D? Okay, we've got some answers coming back. And the answer here is it's going to print we're hacking. So remember what we just talked about. The number 1 in programming is equal to true. So 1 and true are the same thing in Python programming. So hacking equals 1 is the same as hacking equals true. So that's why it's going to print we're hacking. So if I were to just take this code and copy it, and then go over to the online Python, and we were to run this program, then it prints out we're hacking because the number 1 and true are the same. Okay, so next, we're going to be talking about programming loops. So programming loops are very common in programming. They're basically instructions that run over and over again on a set of data. So they're tools that programmers use to run the same instructions multiple times. Okay, so we've got this this loop over here. So for I, and I stands for the item. Okay, so for the item in the range, and range is a list that has 4 items. It's going to print out the item. So it's going to print out 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. Okay, so this is a list. This is a loop, and loops are very important for programming because they let the same instructions be run over and over again. So here the code repeats the instructions 4 times, and each time the value of I is printed. The first time I is 0, then 1, 2, and 3. It stops before the number 4 because it started counting from 0. So it says range is 4. So it prints out 4 numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't print out 4 because it started counting from 0. So there are 2 major categories of loops in Python. There's for loops and while loops. We're going to cover for loops first. Okay, so this is an example of a for loop. Let's talk a little bit more about this. So for loops are instructions that repeat for each item in a set. So in the for loop, there's a set of information. So maybe we have a list with some numbers in it. And the loop is going to stop after the instructions have been performed on all items in the set. So everybody, let's just try programming this this little for loop really quickly. So over at online Python over here, we're going to do the for loop for I in range 4 print I. Okay, so this is so everybody try putting this in the online Python window. For I in range parentheses 4 and then the colon, and then on the next line indent, put a space and then print I. If we run this, oh no, wait, I did this incorrectly. Sorry, you have to wrap this in the parentheses That was dumb. Okay, so after you make sure that your code is correct, you want to run, and then at the bottom here, then it's going to have 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so everybody try that out, and if you're able to get 0, 1, 2, 3 when you click on the run button here, please type in the chat, I looped. Okay. All right, let's move on. So any object that can be referenced by index can be used in a for loop, including strings. Okay, so we can actually run this for loop for strings. So in this case, we've got a string and it's got 4 letters. So in this case, each object is going to be a letter. So in this case, we're going to do the for loop for I for each object in the animal variable over here. And it's these 4 letters. It's going to print out that letter. So this is going to print out the 4 letters inside of the this string, which is frog. Okay, so let's try this. So animal equals frog, and then we're going to do for I in animal print I. So what does this do? This prints out each object in the animal variable, and the animal variable is this string, and each object is going to be a letter. So it's going to be F and then R and then O and then G. So let's run this program, and it prints out the 4 letters F R O G. Okay, so you can run this program if you like. I'll include this in the chat just in case you want to try running this. So to write a for loop, we're going to begin with for, okay, and then a variable name that is only used inside the loop. Typically, we use the letter I. So for I, this object over here, and then we use the in word keyword over here, and then the name of the object to be iterated over. So the name of the object that we're going to run the loop on, and then the colon. On the next line, we're going to indent the line. So it's going to be 4 spaces, and then we're going to input the instructions to be run. Since a loop is a code block, all lines in the loop must be indented. So when we write these for loops, after the colon, we need to make sure that everything inside of the for loop is going to be spaced inside like this. It's called indented. Okay, so all for loops iterate over the contents of an object, typically a list. In fact, the range function creates a list with a series of numbers depending on the arguments given to it. So you don't need to pay too much attention to this. The next thing we're going to talk about is while loops. So the other type of loop is the while loop, which, unlike the for loop, does not have an assumed end condition. So we've got our loop over here, and this is a while loop, and this is going to run over and over again until something happens. Okay, so it's going to be comparing this while the count is, less than. While the count is less than 3, it's going to do something. It's going to print the count. So the count starts at 0, and then it's going to print the count, and then the count is going to increase. This is what this symbol means. Plus equals means increase by 1, okay? So it's going to print out the number for the count, and then it's going to increase the count, and then it's going to check if the count is less than 3. If it is no longer less than 3, then it's going to stop, okay? So here, the loop keeps running until the count variable is no longer less than 3. And each iteration of the loop is going to print the value of the count and then increase the value of the count by 1. Okay? So everybody, let's try out this loop as well, okay? So over at the Learn Online Python website, it's going to be count equals 0. And then we're going to do while count is less than 3, and then we're going to put a colon here. We're going to print count, and then we're going to do count plus equals 1. Okay, so count plus equals 1 means we're going to increase the count variable by 1. Okay, so let me just check the code. Yeah, this is what we want. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to print out the number 0, and then the number 1, and then the number 2. But it's not going to print out the number 3, because when count becomes 3, this loop is going to stop, okay? So when we run this code, then it's going to go 0, 1, 2. All right? So everybody, I want you to try writing this code over here. If you need a reference, I'm including the code in the chat. I want you to try running the code, and if you're able to get this result right here, 0, 1, 2, when you click on the run button over here, then type in the chat while loop. Okay, so user F says that they did not. Well, let's take a look at what we need on each one of these lines, okay? So first of all, the first line is going to be count equals 0. On the second line, we're going to do while count less than 3, colon. And the next line is going to be indented. We need to make sure that there's a space. It's going to print count. And then on the last line, it's also going to be indented like here. And then it's going to be count plus equals and then 1. Okay? So if your code looks like this, and then you press run, then you're going to see 0, 1, 2 like this. Okay? So if you're having trouble, maybe we can talk about it after the session is over. Okay? But I just wanted to get through as much as possible while talking about these loops. Okay? We can see that while loops and if conditionals are closely related, since each time a while loop iterates. So when we talk about loops, we usually use the word iterate, and the word iterate means one cycle that the loop is running. So it's going to check if its running condition is still true, and it's going to end if the statement is false. So count less than 3 is a statement. So it's going to check if it's true. If it's true, it's going to run. If it's false, then it's going to stop. Okay, user F says, can we go over the lines again? Okay, so count equals 0, while count less than 3, colon, and then some spaces, print count. So we need to make sure that we have our parentheses here. And then on the next line, we're going to give some spaces, and then it's going to be count plus equals 1. So the last line here is going to increase the count variable by 1, and then it's going to try running again, okay? So like I said, if you're having a bit of trouble, I'll try to help you out after the session is over. Okay, in our example, the loop runs over and over again while the statement supplied to it remains true. Once the count variable is incremented to 3, then count less than 3 returns false and the loop ends. So we begin the while loop with while, then the statement that must evaluate to true for the loop to execute. So this is the statement that has to evaluate to true for the loop to execute. And then the colon. On the next line, we're going to indent, put in 4 spaces, then input the loop instructions. Typically, the last loop instruction is going to progress the variable towards a state where the loop condition will return false. So inside of these while loops, we have to include an instruction that's going to progress the loop towards the end of the loop, okay? So we also have something called an infinite loop. What happens in a while loop that's coded in such a way where the Boolean statement will never return false? The loop will never end naturally and creates what is called an infinite loop, okay? So this code right here is coded as an infinite loop. So here, the count is equal to 1, and then the loop is while the count is not equal. So this exclamation point equals means not equals. And it's not equal, while it's not equal to 0, it's going to print the count, and then the count is going to increase by 1. So because this statement can never be false, so because the count will never be 0, because it already starts at 1, this is an infinite loop. So let's illustrate what an infinite loop looks like, okay? So less than 0. So this is also something that can't be true. So count less than 0. This can never be true because count is already 1. So when we print this, when we run this, it's just going to go on forever. Okay, so maybe this doesn't go because this program doesn't want to do infinite loops. Although there are cases where programmers want to create infinite loops in their programs, unintentional infinite loops effectively halt program execution, leading to system memory issues, crashes, or other problems. So the break statement is an instruction that we can insert into programming loops, and when executed, the break instruction is going to terminate execution of the current loop. Okay, so here we have a while loop. We have the count equal to 0, and while true, this just means, so while true means run it over and over again. So this is an infinite loop right here. It's going to print the count, and then it's going to do the count is going to increase by 1. The next instruction is if the count is equal to 4, then the loop is going to break. Okay, so this is another way we can code the while loop in order to include an instruction to end the loop. So the break instruction is going to end the loop, and it's going to check if the count is equal to 4. So it's going to go 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then when it becomes 4, then the loop is going to break, okay? So let's try this one as well. All right, so count equals 0. So while true, it's going to print count, and then we're going to count if count equal to 4 break. Okay, and on the last line, we're going to do count plus equal 1. Okay, so we're going to print out the value of count is going to go 0, and then we're going to check if this is equal to 4, and if so, we're going to break. And if not, we're going to increase the count by 1, and then we're going to run this over and over again. Okay, so let's try running this. It does 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it stops, because when the count becomes 4, it prints it out, and then it checks if the count is 4, and then when it becomes 4, it is 4, so it's going to break out of here. Okay. All right. So we have a couple more things to cover today, and I recommend going over the material on this website right here, which is called learnpython.org. I'll give you the link to the section I want you to read that talks about while loops. Okay, and I want you to study that before the next class. But we like to do our PicoCTF exercises before we end the class. So we're going to do a quick PicoCTF exercise before we finish today. Okay. So let me grab. So we're talking about loops. Okay. So I'm going to give you the link that talks about loops on this webpage. Please look this over before the next class. But let's finish off with a PicoCTF exercise, okay? And this PicoCTF exercise is called Fix Me 2. So I'm going to copy this, and everybody, I'm going to share the link. So for this exercise, we need to use the web shell, the PicoCTF web shell. So let's open up our web shell. So the web shell here, we're going to put it in its own browser tab by clicking on this button. And then we're going to log in. It's going to be your username and then put in your password. Let me grab my password. Okay, so everybody, when you have your web shell ready, please type in the chat web shell up and smiley face. And remember, the challenge we're doing today is called fixme2.py. So in the description here, it says fix the syntax error in the Python script to print the flag. So we've got our flag we've got our Python script that we need to download. So we can just right click and select copy link address. Then we go over to the web shell, and then we make a directory. So it's going to be make dir fixme2. And then we're going to use the cd command to enter the directory. And then we're going to use the wget command to download the file. So it's going to be wget, and then right click, choose paste, and then press enter. And that's going to download the file, okay? So after the file is downloaded, we see that we've got fixme2.py. What I want you to do is run the program. So we can run the program by using Python, and it's going to be fixme2.py. And here, it gives us a syntax error over here. It says invalid syntax. Maybe you meant equal equal or colon equal instead of equals. So this has to do with this line right here. So if flag equal this right here. So if we wanted to ask about why this is incorrect, we could just copy this and then copy this, and we could ask ChatGPT. So we can go over to ChatGPT and ask this question: why is this Python code wrong? Okay, and then we can paste in the Python code. And then we get the explanation. So ChatGPT says the Python code is incorrect because the equal operator is used for assignment, but not for comparison. In the condition of an if statement, you need to use the double equal sign operator to check for equality. All right. So ChatGPT has told us that we need to use the double equal signs here. So what we need to do inside of our web shell is we need to edit the file. So we're going to edit the file by using the nano command. So add nano fixme2.py, py, and then press enter. And then we're going to edit the this file right here. Go down to the bottom and find this portion right here that says if flag equals, and then this these quotes right here. What you need to do is we need to make sure that if flag is not one equal sign, but is two equal signs. Okay? All right, so user H, let's talk about this after the session is over. And so basically what you need to do, so we use the nano text editor to enter this this mode right here. Okay? We edit so that flag is double equals, not one equals. So double equal sign here, and then we need to save. It's going to be Control X to save. It's going to ask us if we want to save the modified buffer. Press Y for yes, and then press Enter to save that. Okay. So what we need to do now is we need to run the file one more time. So it's going to be Python fixme2.py. And then it says, that is correct, here is your flag. Okay, so what we need to do now is copy this flag and then go over to the challenge page and then paste in the flag here and click on Submit Flag to finish the exercise. Okay, so to the people who were a little confused, what we need to do to edit the file is to use the nano command. So nano space fixme2.py. And that's how you get inside the nano editor. To exit, you need to use the Control X keyboard shortcut. Okay, so everybody, if you managed to finish that challenge, please type in the chat, fixed. Okay, so before we finish today's session, let's go over the concepts that we talked about in today's session. Okay. So we talked about conditions in today's session. Conditions are used in programs to determine a program's course of action. They rely on the evaluation of Boolean statements to determine if certain instructions are performed or not. So if something is true, it's going to do something, or else it's going to do something else. We also learned about programming loops, and loops are tools that programmers use to run the same instructions multiple times. So here we've got a for loop, and it's going to run on this these objects inside this list. It's going to do 1 and then 2 and then 3, and it's going to print the object each time. Loops can either run a preset number of times before terminating or iterate through all items in a list or string. In the case of for loops, for all the objects inside of this set, it's going to run these instructions. or they're going to run continuously until a predetermined trigger state is achieved in the case of while loops. So the while loop is going to run over and over again until something happens to trigger its end, okay? So what's next? In the next HackerFrogs After School Programming Workshop, we're going to continue learning and we're going to cover functions. So this is a really big topic. Functions are basically, we've been using a lot of functions inside of Python already. We use stuff like the print function and well, the print function is probably the biggest function we use inside of Python. All right, so everybody, if you need me to help you individually about when we're talking about any of the exercises that we did today or any of the concepts we did today, please type in the chat that that you need a little bit of help, and I'll help you after the session is over. Otherwise, we're going to be coming back to our sessions on Monday. So on Monday, we're going to have our next session. It's going to be about functions, and I hope to see you there, okay? Otherwise, if you don't need any help, feel free to leave the call. But thank you very much, everybody, for coming today. And if you had any questions about anything we talked about, please let us know in the chat, okay? All right. So is there anybody who wants help? Okay, so sorry.